I would now like to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Parry Oei, Hydrography Advisor with the Maritime Port Authority, to share the experience of building the award-winning Marine Spatial Data Infrastructure Portal, the GeoSpace-Sea. Our climate action plans will require data from multiple sources, and GeoSpace-Sea brings together authoritative land, marine, and coastal data from 11 government agencies. I'll let Dr. Perry elaborate on this further. Dr. Perry, over to you, please.
Thanks, Zara. My first slide, please. Okay, this is outline my presentation, but good day, everybody. Actually, it's a great pleasure to be speaking to you. But if you know Leslie Wong, he's very persuasive, and I'm very bad at saying no. Anyway, I missed the face-to-face meeting. Then I can actually see whether I'm boring you or getting you excited. So this is the outline of my presentation today. Is a complexity of climate change. I'll talk about it and how I started on this. And second would be setting up our integrated databases, as well as challenges in moving and staying ahead, and also conclusion. Next slide, please. Anyway, just let me share with you something which is personal to me on where and when my interest in climate change first started. I started in the mid-1980s. Yeah, you can see from my white hair that I'm not young. I'm not a young bird anymore. So when I was involved in the ASEAN Australia project to measure changes in sea levels and tidal currents in ASEAN waters, the project managed to install and measure tidal levels and current across the region. And besides data, we got to know the member states better, and up to today, we still maintain a very close relationship in exchanging some information. So besides the data, one of the key deliverables was the introduction of tidal instruments that could measure millimetric accuracy, because if you want to measure what the influence or whether it's affected by climate change, you need that sort of level of accuracy. And my interest in climate change grew further when I was attached to CSIRO, which is based in Hobart, for almost 2 months in the early 1990s. That was when I saw and said that the world, we should work together to achieve a pristine living environment, and also the need for recycling. My only disappointment in my stay in Hobart was that the recycling bin was too small and was only collected once a week. The recycling bin was always overflowing with the bottles of beer I had from my house. Anyway, I think more serious note. So now you know where and how my passion started. Let me share with you as to why I think we should be serious on the issue of climate change and what our vital roles are. We need to better understand and know what to do moving forward. Okay, and I have 3 points to make on this issue. My first point is that we are all interdependent on modeling to help us understand and try to predict the impact of our actions on the climate in the year 2100. I'm not saying that the models are no good. Models could be better with higher resolution and good quality data in order to produce good results. And my second point is that climate change is highly complex and interdependent and related to many different factors, which makes climate change prediction for every scenario very difficult. Just look around you to see what's happening. Regardless of whether you are situated in the Pacific, Atlantic, or the Antarctic Oceans, we have witnessed and we are witnessing coral bleaching, fishes and marine organisms moving from warmer to cooler waters, higher frequency of typhoons, hurricanes, and storms, forest fires, as you have seen from the previous presenters, extensive flooding, tornadoes. The list goes on and on. And I'm quite certain that there are some impact that we will actually do not know exist now. Among all these catastrophes, many are linked to the influence of sea temperature carried by the ocean waters. Now that the world's attention is on climate change, my third and last point is that it's vital for us to band together on a global basis to share and exchange data, expertise, and experiences. Whether you are coastal or landlocked state, we all will feel the impact of climate change. After all, we live and share the same planet and waters. Next slide, please. So these are snippets, new snippets on climate change over the past months and years. But it's not all gloom and gloom. Yesterday, when I was meeting my Swedish counterpart, he was sharing with me that they are finding tunas now in Swedish waters. So they might enjoy, you might have good sashimi in Sweden in a matter of time. Next slide, please. So let me share with you Singapore's journey to implement the GeoSpace-Sea initiative. Like in most things in life, whether in a job or life partner, we can only hope that we have chosen the right partners or partners. In this regard, the idea of GeoSpace-Sea was able to attract proactive partners that share the same objective of data sharing with us. And I must admit that we were lucky to have worked with many like-minded public agencies to roll out the GeoSpace-Sea program. We intentionally kept the group small from the start and embarked on a proof of concepts. I managed to access and gather relevant information to carry out our work. Initially, there were also concerns with sharing of information. But after numerous sessions and building trust among the agencies, data flow became more forthcoming. And we agreed that the best way forward is to classify the information for different usage. And our plan for the next phase is to open up the data to the public. It is still work in progress, and we are working on establishing a framework to ensure data integrity and accessibility. Initially, when we embark on this journey, we face many challenges. For example, how do we rapidly build up and populate our database? Do we start digitizing analog data? If so, how far do we go back to? I'm sure that some of you will agree that analog data is not always nicely tabulated for easy access. And many of these analog data were in the form of reports, which makes it more difficult to extract. Our next challenge was, what happens once we have decided to digitize the analog data? What standards do we adopt? From the management perspective, it was a simple decision. It was just do it. But if you look from the technical perspective, it was a nightmare of studies and assessment of the different types of standards. How do you future-proof data sets? Fortunately, we have been following the development of standards and using our experiences at the IHO. For some of you who do not know what IHO stands for, it's an International Hydrographic Organization, which is based in Monaco. And we felt that the OGC standard would be a safer route, as is widely accepted internationally. And not only that, OGC is very active at the UN Forum. So one of the other factors for success was the level of support we received from top management. It also helped when at the national level there was a push to accelerate digital transformation. We rode on the flooding tide. However, we are always conscious that when there's a flooding tide, there's also an ebbing tide. So we needed to work on how to ensure sustainability. And the key is to explore and identify new products and services for digital data. And IHO's philosophy is capture once, use many times. And I think that's a very good philosophy to adopt. And there are other important factors to ensuring sustainability of these are very important factors to ensuring the sustainability of the GeoSpace-Sea. So besides the top management support, I must say that we had a very good team of passionate people, people with the required technical skills, but more importantly, a deep passion to change the world. A world that's becoming connected and more integrated. We are not looking for yes men or women. We look for people who can do and dare to do change attitude. Next slide, please. So with the support from our top management, the right support from a dedicated team of inspired people, we now need to see and predict what our next challenges would be. I'm a strong supporter of using machine learning and AI. The challenges are how to use them. What are we developing? And thirdly, is the present data fit for purpose? Therefore, our first focus would be to initiate the development of APIs from what we have done. It is through the APIs that we can then better understand the gaps in our data sets and where or how we can better collect our data. In my introduction, I made references to use of models. And I see models can only get better with the advancement of computing power and the importance of higher resolution and better quality data sets. I'm not suggesting that machine learning or AI will be the panacea for all our problems. But machine learning and AI could flag our minuscule changes in an environment which we do not know, which otherwise would go unnoticed. We should take lessons from how Tesla developed driverless cars, where they took a giant leap in transforming a dream to reality. But they also make incremental progress as they went along and refining the software and algorithm. And I think we should take lesson from that. I also see the need for us to move away from our past data sets that were digitized from analog form. We need to acquire clean data that are in agreed universal standards direct from instruments in the field. In this area, I think we should nudge the OEMs of such instrument manufacturers towards this direction of universal standards. This is analogous to adoption of what we call the S mode for electronic charting displays on board ships. But I'm quite confident that we will eventually will get there if we collectively as users make the push forward with the OEMs. So in conclusion, my next slide please. I felt that we are fortunate to have successfully implemented the first phase of GeoSpace-Sea as the planets are aligned. However, there was political will to implement digitization at the national level. And we had strong support from our partners, which is very necessary and important in our journey. We need to start cooperating and collaborating to better understand the impact of climate change. What we can do is we have and we need harmonized and high quality data sets where we can ease our workload. Once the wheel starts turning at the national, regional, and international organizational level, regardless of whether it's public or private sector, we can make the difference for next generation and the future generation. We need to enhance advancement in technology and also produce better data sets to meet future needs. But the utmost important factor is that we must all be united and work together towards minimizing the impact of climate change. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Perry. Before we proceed with the questions, I'd first like to congratulate you on the Special Achievement Award in GIS that has been awarded to MPA this year.
Yeah, it's also because of S3, we are using S3.
Right. Okay, so we'll proceed with the questions that we have for your presentation. The first one reads, GeoSpace-Sea involved working together with 11 other government agencies and institutes of higher learning. What frameworks did you have in place to make this collaboration as seamless as possible?
Uh, okay, if you look at in a Singapore's context, the framework already existed at the national level and it started from the land side of it. But what was not seamless was because of the data. And that was a challenge because the data, we were collecting more parameters, marine parameters, than we used to do. And there were no standards. So the challenge to make it seamless was to make sure to ensuring that there were standards we adopted and to then harmonize the data in which we can go forward. So it's not seamless in that sense because there was a lot of work which our guys did in trying to harmonize the different data that have been collected over the past years. And that was the biggest challenge. Now I can say, yeah, yes, we are moving towards a more seamless, not in terms of only framework, but more importantly, data exchange.
Yes, understand. You have highlighted the use of clean data, right? That you just collect once and then use several times during the presentation.
Yes.
Okay. The next question reads, can you give us an example of how MPA will be working with agencies such as PUB and HDB in terms of sustainability planning and development?
Okay. We are providing, besides our bathymetric data of the waters, because we have got electronic navigational chart, and that forms the basis. But for models and for the PUB, for HDB, where they do that, for HDB, for example, they do land reclamation. They need bathymetric information, and therefore we are providing them that sort of information. But going ahead with PUB, HDB, or any of the other government agencies that does coastal engineering, they need real-time information. You saw from the NOAA's presentation, sea level, for example, sea level monitoring, and that's what we provide. We gave them access to sea level, and that's where our next challenge is in GeoSpace-Sea. It will be a dynamic database. It's not static. So with the three-dimensional, we are hoping to use, and have been challenging my guys using augmented reality or virtual reality. This generation is so familiar and comfortable using augmented reality. Let's introduce augmented reality to what we are doing. It's not looking at data models anymore. It's diving into the data itself, into see in three-dimensional or even four-dimensional in terms of time. And that will be the challenge.
Yes, challenging but very exciting also, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But
Okay.
my runways are really very short.
Okay. Yeah, and I think just to add on to what you have mentioned, Dr. Perry, I wrote something that really struck a chord with me during your presentation. You mentioned that we need to start cooperating and collaborating. And I think with what you've been doing with organizations like PUB and HDB, it's really
Yeah.
a stark example of that.
Yeah. But I think we need to move beyond the national boundaries. The ocean has no boundaries. The fishes have no
Uh,
boundaries. Pollution have no boundaries. And therefore, we need to work together and collaborate.
Agreed. Couldn't have said it better, Dr. Perry. Thank you again for your time this afternoon.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.